Hey there YouTube, this is Joe, you're watching Ink&Iron, and today I am here to bring you a review of a fountain pen. Ooh, I know I haven't done enough of these. This is my Pilot Vanishing Point. It's a gloss white and matte black finish. I bought this from Dan Smith of the Nib Smith. You've probably seen him if you've ever gone to a pen show, or maybe you've seen his YouTube channel. Anyway, he smoothed out this Pilot broad nib for me, and he referred to this as the Stormtrooper finish, so that's how I'm going to refer to it from here on out. I'm going to give you the specs on this pen, I'm going to give you my review of it, and then I'm going to show you a writing sample. So let's flip the camera all around and get a look at my desk so we can get down to the nitty-gritty details of this very convenient fountain pen. Okay, here we are at my desk, and we're getting started with these size comparisons right away. Let me just get all these to the same starting point. There we go. Then you have a good idea of the size, and in just a second here you're going to see the stats that I took. Okay, now that you have all those measurements, let me just get started talking about this pen. So this is a super convenient pen. This is a click style pen. That's why it's called the Vanishing Point. The nib on here is 14 karat gold, and this particular one is a broad. Let me see if I can focus so you can see it slipping out of its little doorway there. And let me see if I've got something to give you a better idea of how this looks. Alright, so I've got a 40x jeweler's loop up to my camera. So you can see it's a pretty small nib. Here's its small breather hole. Trying to keep it in focus here. And then maybe you can see the little doorway. See the door? And do you see how the nib rakes across it a little bit? It's my only real problem with this pen. You can see it pushes that little door down and then sticks out. So there you go. And I will try and get better at that jeweler's loop as I continue shooting these videos. But I would like to say that it's a pretty good sized pen. We're sitting right around 5.5 inches as it is right here. Which is a decent size. For comparison, you've got a TWSBI Eco. This is a Noodler's Conrad. This is another Pilot. This is the Prera. And then you have the little pocket pen, the Kaweco Sport. So these should be pretty common pens. I hope I'm giving you a good enough size comparison here. Let me know if you have improvements. But anyway, nothing beats the convenience of this pen. When you need a fountain pen fast, nothing's faster than the click. I don't care if you've got a Visconti and it takes only a quarter turn to get the cap off. This is almost instantaneous. It's as fast as I can move my thumb, is as fast as I can get that nib out and get to writing. Speaking of writing, let's do a little bit of a writing sample. So this is, and I'm going to do this, I guess in cursive, why not? The Pilot Vanishing Point. And this is a broad Pilot nib. And like I said, this was tuned by Dan Smith of the Nib Smith. Whoops. Okay, not the most amazing lighting. I don't think you can see my ink very well. This is, the ink here is Private Reserve. Oops. Private Reserve Blue Suede. So, very nice ink. It's my go-to ink pretty much. This nib is slightly flexible. I would call it bouncy. Certainly if you add no pressure, you get lines like this. And then if I force a little flex into it, and I'm not going too hard, because it doesn't need to be too hard, you can definitely get a broader, wetter line there. Put more ink down on the page. And let me see, you can see a little bit of shading happening there. So yeah, this nib is quite smooth, quite flexible, quite easy to use. Sings a little bit on this paper. It may be my writing angle or whatever. But yeah, I quite like it. I'm just going to keep doodling here as I talk about it. The flow keeps up really nicely, as most of my Pilot pens do. Never really had a problem with them acting up on me. I don't have the best writing technique, but I do have this 3-finger grip, and so having the clip between my fingers doesn't feel unnatural, and honestly it helps quite a bit because this barrel is glossy. It's quite slick. I have a little bit of sweat on my hands just because it's warm in this room. But my fingers, like it's not rotating in my fingers, you know what I mean? The pen isn't doing this as I write because the clip keeps it secure between my first finger and my thumb. So that is quite nice. And the nib is so smooth that I don't feel the need to grip too hard, which is another nice thing. One downside to this pen is that if you want a new nib, you have to buy a whole new nib unit. So let me open this up here. If you want a new nib, you have to buy this whole section right here. So this is a nib assembly, and then this piece actually mates with the converter. So this back end is a converter that slots into this metal piece that holds the nib. So you buy the nib and this metal assembly, so it's a nib feed and whatever you want to call that, nib unit, I guess. And they are kind of expensive. I think they're between like $80 and like $100. I will put it down here in the corner because I don't remember exactly, and I'll do the research after. But yeah, it's not a swap as you go number 6 Yovo nib where you can put whatever you want in here. You kind of have to be intentional with it. So in that case, it's a bit of a limitation for some people. For me, it's been just fine because when I'm grabbing this pen, I'm grabbing something that's just super fast to deploy. If I am at the grocery store or something and I don't feel like capping and uncapping my pen 100 times, this thing is the way to go. It is a task master. Quite like the Pilot Vanishing Point, the weight is substantial but not excessive. As you saw, it's just over an ounce, about 32 grams. So it feels good. It's not much heavier than, say, like a Lamy Safari. I think those are about 27 grams or something. This is really nice. You will never outpace the feed, I don't think. It might skip a little, but you can get pretty fast with it, and it just keeps flowing. I think that probably has something to do with it being a gold nib. Is it my only gold nib? I think it is. I have this gold nib and then a titanium nib to compare, but that's about it. The price point on this pen is going to be about $140, and for that price you actually have a decent amount of competition, so we're going to do that at the end of the video just to show you some competitive options for this very convenient and very smooth wet writing fountain pen. Okay, and here's our competition. I have to keep my hands in frame, otherwise this is gonna get way too overexposed. So over here we have our Pilot Vanishing Point. This is the Keras Customs Ink fountain pen. I went with another metal pen, and this one's actually available with a titanium nib, so hopefully I can show this to you. There we go. It's a titanium nib, which is also very flexible, very wet writer. Pretty comparable to the gold nib on the Pilot Vanishing Point. This is another very good everyday carry pen. I think you can get them somewhere around $100. I'll put the price down here. But as far as competition goes, it is a very smooth writing metal pen that I would highly recommend to you to use every day. And then as sort of a budget option, this is the Faber-Castell Lume Focus. There we go. This is another metal body pen. This one comes in multiple finishes, and yeah, also has a very smooth nib on it. I'm not sure who makes Faber-Castell's nibs, but yeah, if you see a nib with this dot pattern on there, you know you're in for a good time. Extremely smooth. This can be a cartridge converter pen, and I think you can still get these for around $40-something. Again, true price down here in the corner. But this would definitely be a budget option if you're looking for similar performance without breaking the bank. Okay, and that's all I got for you today. Thank you for joining me and for checking out the Pilot Vanishing Point. I know this review has kind of been done to death, and tons of people have praised this pen, and I'm just kind of hopping on the bandwagon and you know, trying to get those staples into my roster of videos so that everybody knows I'm legit. Alright, I have been Joe. You've been watching Ink&Iron. Please consider hitting like, sharing, subscribing, and if you really like my content, subscribe and, you know, jump onto my Patreon. Thanks a lot, and I will catch you on the next video.